No Man's Sky. It's finally here. And what a wait it was. Delayed until August 9th, and then pushed back 3 more days so Sony could have its PlayStation players be happy and get a head start. But then pushed back again until 1 PM for downloading on Steam. Oh, and then it wouldn't start, and then when it did start, it was, god, there's issues. But before we get to that, let's talk about this game and what it is. Now, this is going to be a partial review. I haven't beaten the game yet, so nothing is going to be spoiled here. Don't worry, keep your pants on. But we're just going to be talking about No Man's Sky, what it is, what it means, and is it fun? Now, No Man's Sky greets you with the title and then just dumps you on a planet, a random planet. Just you and your busted ass ship in a weird sphere called Atlas, which you can accept as some sort of guide if you choose, but I would suggest accepting its guidance, because if you don't, you're totally boned and will find yourself online looking up what the fuck you're supposed to do every 20 seconds, because even with Atlas, you're going to be lost and confused. Hopefully, if you started this game already, you ended up on a nice planet with a good atmosphere, lots of plant and animal life, and good weather. But if we're being real, you probably didn't. If you haven't started the game, you're probably wondering what the hell I'm talking about. Well, in this game, there's about 15 quintillion planets. That's a lot of planets, guys, like a lot. And to put into terms that most people can understand, if you took 1 quintillion pennies, laid them flat on the ground, they would cover the entire Earth twice. If you took those pennies and put them into a cube, it'd be about 5.17 miles on all sides. Now that's only 1,700 feet smaller than Mount Everest, so we're talking a lot. Now multiply that by 15 individually, and that's how many planets there are in No Man's Sky. This is insane. And every planet is unique and huge, like unbelievably big. At one point in my play so far, I decided to set out on foot towards the marked directive. It took me 37 real-time minutes to reach it walking in a straight line. Was it on the other side of the planet? No, it was just over there. And that's just one planet, and it was a small planet. This, my friends, is unprecedented, insane, unfathomable size. One of the main press points while advertising this game was the creators haven't even been able to see the whole thing. Well, no shit, it would take the entire race over 100,000 years spending 1 second on each one of these planets to see the entire game. But don't worry, No Man's Sky is only about 2 gigs in size. Now I'll get to that in a minute. Back to your starting planet. So this starting point could be a planet or a moon, and all its aspects will be random, from the type of atmosphere, could be poisonous, radioactive, etc., to its weather. Could be way too hot, way too cold, violent storms, also etc. And even plant and animal life being abundant or sparse. Now how did they do this? How did these programmers get this to work and keep the size of the game so small? Well, I might have a bit of an explanation. Now I'm sure you've heard that this game is procedurally generated. That means that essentially the developers used a mathematical algorithm or an ongoing equation to assemble the game as it's experienced, meaning that as you travel, the game kind of creates itself. Now to keep this short, think of a lifeless barren place like Death Valley in Arizona. Now call that planet. Now add on what aspects there could be that make a planet a planet. For example, weather, atmosphere, geography, water, life, and that's your basic outline of a planet. Now in programming, what we would call that is a class, and each of those aspects previously mentioned are attributes of the class. Now each of those attributes can be classes themselves with their own attributes, and in this case they would be. So this is an oversimplified example, and I guarantee in the code of this game, one of these classes has thousands of attributes, but to assemble them together mathematically without issue is pretty crazy. The only way I could see that happening is to assign each attribute in each class to a specific number to a specific variable and use a randomizer to piece them together. Regardless, that's about how it works, and when you wake up in your first planet, your immediate goal is to fix your ship. This is done by collecting elements from natural rock formations by blowing them to smithereens with your mining gun. This is a pretty fun mechanic, and even 15 hours in, I'm still finding new elements I never knew existed in the game. And the first time I found gold, I spent 20 minutes trying to get it all because I thought it was super rare and I was lucky and I'd just make millions. But there's a lot of gold in the game, so don't freak out if you find the same stuff. As you explore your first world, you may run into some obstacles. Mine had a toxic atmosphere, which meant I had to hide in a cave briefly from time to time, or my toxic protection unit would run dry, and I'd start taking physical damage. Now, this isn't a big deal normally, but it can be. I landed on a planet one time that had such a violent atmosphere that I could only last outside for 30 seconds. If this was the kind of level that you started out on, I feel fucking bad for you. But just get what you need and get out fast. This is why I suggested that you take on the Atlas. You'll want it to tell you what to get so you can get out as quickly as possible if you have to. As a side note, you can also repair your suit with zinc found in small plants or titanium. So far, the only titanium I've found was inside Sentinels, which I immediately didn't like and started to destroy without even really thinking about it. I don't know what purpose they hold, but they can be bastards when attacked, and they'll call for help and more will show up to kill you. If you don't get them quickly enough, they'll start calling in attack drones, which can only be killed with a blaster upgrade to your mining gun. It can get pretty bad. I've killed over about 90 of these things and only died once unexpectedly while trying to break into a locked door in the middle of nowhere without my ship nearby. So I wouldn't worry too much, but as of right now I do suggest taking them out. Titanium is useful and valuable as well. Also, if you do die, you'll lose all your items until you find your grave, so don't die. The other thing that is going to run out constantly is your life support, but that can be fixed with a lot of carbon or a little bit of plutonium. Now, plutonium is super important now that I think about it. It's what powers your life support and your ship. Always have a full block of this stuff at all times. It's relatively abundant and at almost all camps or shelters. And oh yeah, there are camps and shelters. These planets are populated to a degree, so you'll find random, sporadically placed shelters or stations throughout the planets. These are usually manned by random aliens that will help you on your way by giving you gear, blueprints, and elements necessary to progress. It did take me a while to find one of these, and I didn't find one on my first planet, or even my second, but when I did, I was pretty happy because I could trade away all that gold I was hoarding. Finally, once you fuel up your ship and take off, you have a couple of options. Now you can fly farther around your starting planet or head out into space. Now this is the first time you're able to get a view of how massive this game is, as the next planet in the system is probably an undeterminable distance away. If you wanted to in this game, you could point your starship directly at a planet from anywhere in the galaxy and just let it go. Keep your computer on as long as you want. It could take actual human years to get to another planet that's in the same solar system as the planet that you're in currently. It's insane. This is solved by your boost jump, which will fire you at light speed or faster, probably faster, I don't know, towards whichever destination you've decided on, or you can jump to hyperspace and travel to a new system and progress further in your journey. Flying is pretty rad. You can mine elements from asteroids and even fight other ships, though keeping a good reputation with the indigenous intelligent life forms in the system is a good idea, as they will help you and you can get better items from them that way. Most of this game so far has been hunting and exploring. You'll be spending a lot of time trying to track down your objectives, and they are obscure and not laid out in an obvious way. You might be looking for something on the wrong planet from time to time. One thing in particular that has been difficult for me has been fueling my hyperdrive. Even after getting the blueprints and items, some of which are rare or expensive, I was only able to get enough fuel for one jump. It's a tough journey, but it's incredibly rewarding when you get your objectives and are able to warp out of your system. But don't forget to name it first if it hasn't been discovered. You can do this with all areas and animals you encounter. Every time you make a hyperspace jump, you'll exit by a space station in the new system that you landed in. Now these are important hubs and easily accessible places to sell and buy goods and even new starships. I got myself a new one for about 500,000 credits and I absolutely love it. Alright, so now let's move on to the pros of the game. Now this is an amazing game. No Man's Sky is great, so emphasis on amazing. The vastness is insurmountable. I've never been so overwhelmed by the size of something before. You could spend thousands of lifetimes in No Man's Sky and not even see a quarter of it. It's that big. The animal life and plant life are so varied and strange. The planets are also beautiful, scary, and foreign. It's a wonderful experience. I find that it controls very well and flying your ship is a blast. Every time I land on a new planet, I get a new surprise, and that's probably the best part. Everything is new every time. Even just the color schemes alone can totally change the feeling of new environments. Everything is upgradable, new weapons are everywhere, new and interesting ships, and even pocket compartments for your spacesuit are just added bonuses, as they'll allow you to hold more precious materials for selling or using to create new and better tools. The game is intriguing. I have no idea where it's going so far. I'm excited to learn more about the alien species I encounter. You can slowly learn their languages and get mysterious, epic encounters from ancient alien monoliths scattered all over the planets. And what is Atlas? What are the Sentinels? I just can't imagine what is actually going on in this game. Your character doesn't even know what it is yet. There's so much space and leeway to do whatever you want. You could spend your time doing anything and not feel like it was wasted. And the game looks really cool as well. Plus it's sci-fi, and I love sci-fi. So here's an odd aside that I've been thinking about lately. Obviously, there's a lot of questions about the universe and what it is, how it was made, what's the purpose, is there a god, what's the point? Now, I tend to subscribe to the theory that if matter is never created nor destroyed, then we must live in a finite universe, meaning that there is a limit to how much there is here, and it will never change. Now, what shape it takes is basically unlimited, but despite that, its vastness is limited. Like the area inside a box with toys in it. If no toys can come in or go out, that's like our universe. And us humans are just one of those toys stuck in the box. And as for the meaning is a human concept, so if you're feeling nihilistic, just remember that life only means what you make it mean. If we as a species define the concept, we can then in turn define the execution of that concept as well. So everything means exactly what you say it does, to you at least. This is why we fight. It's because people can't always agree on the meaning of things, because they don't understand that nothing means everything, vice versa, and in between. And it's all just a little futile. But here we have another universe inside a game, an actual second universe as vast and varied as our own. And there is definitive proof that other realities do exist. I'm looking at it right now. And though they might not be tangible in the form that we expect from our reality, they are real in a way. They do exist. So are we living in what is seen through a microscope on some far larger plane of existence, much like how we view atoms? Are we spinning around millions of other larger and smaller universes different from ours? I would say yes. Mathematically, it makes sense. If you look at atoms, solar systems, galaxies, and universes, they're all very similar in shape and behavior. Now, we probably will never have proof, it's just some food for thought, so what do you think? Okay, so here are the cons. If you're like me and got No Man's Sky on the PC, you've probably spent a good amount of time banging your head against the wall. When I first downloaded it, it wouldn't even open. For an hour and a half, I messed with settings over and over trying to get it to start, and it finally did. But then I had to continually mess with the graphics settings within my game and on my desktop to optimize them. But I'm still getting screen tears constantly, and it's infuriating. There's bugs and glitches. Don't even try to alt-tab or you won't be able to bring the game back up. You'll have to exit and lose all your progress from your last save. Speaking of saving, you can only do so at specific places that can be few and far between, or by entering and exiting your ship. Now, this makes setting out on foot dangerous. If you're 40 minutes away from your ship with no outposts in sight, you're fucked if your game crashes, which it might, so be careful. The other problem with this is that it kind of takes away the desire to set out on foot. It makes more sense to take your ship from place to place, kind of hop around, get out, explore an area around that's safe, and then get back in your ship. Because if you leave your ship behind, which sometimes you have to do, especially if you want to explore a cave or something like that, and you get trapped or stuck or something like that, you're going to lose your save data. And I know I've said it maybe once already, but this game is big. Almost too big. It's daunting even to start. There's very, very little direction, even with Atlas's help. You can get lost or stranded on hazardous planets and have a very difficult time getting your footing back. It's a serious challenge. The game is incredibly unforgiving, so if you get lost on a planet and die, especially one with a really intense atmosphere that you can only be outside for about 30 seconds at a time, you are super fucked. No Man's Sky can also be very lonely, especially at night in the game. I haven't been to a populated world yet, if there even are any. You can feed the wildlife and make them happy, but intelligent life is scarce, and even still, your interactions with them are short and don't give you the kind of companionship you need in such a vast, vast environment. Perhaps I'm still too early in the game, but this always bothers me in titles like this. You're pretty much alone, and that can get depressing, and the animal life is barely tangible regardless of being able to interact with it. So those are my main complaints. Not a lot, but it does take away from the experience when I can't just go and walk and at least have the safety of being able to save. Now, I guess that kind of adds to the challenge of the game, kind of makes it more serious when you're trapped in an environment, and also kind of keeps you from saving in a space where you can't recover, because that would really suck. But again, I'm only about 15 hours into the game, so there's a lot left to do. I've heard from friends that there's plenty of storyline that I haven't even run into yet. I'm just really excited to keep going. I'm loving this game, honestly. There's just so much more to be seen. I've heard rumors about some vast storyline that I haven't even hit yet, and just the endless amount of planets and colors and variations and wildlife. It's just, I'm really excited to continue with this game. And when I get farther in it, or if I beat it, which I don't even know if you can, there's been rumors about people who have beaten the game, but when I beat it, I will do a full second half review for you guys. So let me know what you guys thought about the game in the comments. Let me know what you thought about anything that I said. We can have some discussions about it. Make sure that if you're interested, go check out No Man's Sky for yourself. I would suggest, if you have a PS4, probably getting it on that. There are issues with the PC version, and it kind of sucks. Not the game itself, but just the issues that come along with the PC version. So with that being said, I'm Maikeru, and this was No Man's Sky. I'll see you next time.